Coming up, the Cardinals pull off an upset in overtime, and the Bucs break their regular season losing streak against the Saints. This is Locked On Game to Game NFL.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NFL, local experts weighing in on week 2 of the NFL season. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens, and thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Things got chippy in New Orleans, but that did not distract Tom Brady in his bounce back win over the Saints. Both Locked On Bucs and Locked On Saints have the story after a pretty messy one in the Superdome.
A rumble in the bayou, but that's not really the storyline everybody should be talking about. I'm David Harrison of the Locked On Bucs podcast, coming to you from the Superdome following the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' 20-10 win over the NFC South Division rival New Orleans Saints. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense should be the talk of the town following this win. Tampa Bay Buccaneers putting up only 3 points through over 3 quarters of this game, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense came through, kept Jameis Winston and the Saints from running away from it, getting turnover after turnover after turnover when it counted the most, and in the end, the Buccaneers are 2-0 to start the 2022 NFL season. For more on this story and everything Tampa Bay Buccaneers, find James Jarko, myself at the Locked On Bucs podcast 5 days a week, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Whether you want to cite the penalties or the punches, the New Orleans Saints just didn't have things go their way against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a Sunday afternoon. I'm Ross Jackson, host of the Locked On Saints podcast. New Orleans Saints fall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here in the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. A 3-interception game for Jameis Winston that will certainly be one of the more scrutinized performances he's had so far as a New Orleans Saint. But I don't think the New Orleans Saints are going to be anywhere near ready to turn the page on Jameis Winston just yet. He had a rough week 2 last year in 2022 as well. The Saints stuck with him then. I expect that they'll stick with him now, even with a veteran like Andy Dalton available as a backup. New Orleans Saints just had a lot of miscues and, of course, had the bench-clearing brawl that will make headlines all throughout the week. For more on this matchup and your New Orleans Saints, make sure you're following along with the Locked On Saints podcast, free and available on all platforms, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every.
The Carolina Panthers and the New York Giants took part in a low-scoring battle on Sunday, with both teams trading field goals down the stretch to try and close out a win. Locked On Panthers and Locked On Giants have more from the war of attrition between these two NFC teams.
The numbers never lie. The numbers are telling me that Matt Rule will not be the head coach much longer here in Carolina. I'm Julian Council, the host of Locked On Panthers. And if you look at the numbers for Matt Rule, they do not tell a lie. The Panthers have now lost 9 straight games under Matt Rule, dating back to last season, following their 19-16 loss in week 2 to the New York Giants. They're 10-25 overall under Matt Rule and 1-25 under Rule when they allow 17-plus points in a game. And they've led in 17 of their last 19 games, where they are 5-12 in those games. Matt Rule says that the Carolina Panthers are close, but the numbers tell a very different story for Matt Rule and for the Carolina Panthers under his tutelage. For more on your Carolina Panthers and more of the matchups throughout the season, be sure to check out Locked On Panthers every Monday through Friday, free and available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
New York Giants defensive coordinator Wink Martindale promised to give the hometown crowd something to cheer about, and by golly, he did, as the New York Giants topped the Carolina Panthers 19-16 to go 2-0 for the first time since 2016. Hi, everybody. This is Patricia Traynor reporting, and the Giants seemed to immediately benefit in this game when it recovered back-to-back turnovers by the Panthers on the opening kickoff and then their ensuing drive. However, the Giants' offense struggled to get into any kind of a rhythm or move the ball much, forcing the team to settle for 2 Graham Gano field goals and a 6-0 lead, which eventually evaporated when the Panthers got a pair of their own field goals from kicker Eddie Pinheiro to tie it at 6-6 at the half. Now, in the second half of the game, the Giants' defense really came to play. After losing defensive lineman Leonard Williams to a knee injury, the Giants buttoned things up really tightly and went after quarterback Baker Mayfield, whom they hit 4 times and sacked twice. The Giants' defense also picked up where it left off last week on stopping third downs, allowing Carolina to convert just 2 of 12 third down attempts this week. New York has now held their first 2 opponents to 5 of 23 on third down conversion attempts this season. The Giants got two big fourth quarter field goals of 51 and 56 yards from Gano, the 56-yarder being the game winner, and tucked into the scoring for the Giants was another touchdown pass thrown to a tight end, this time to rookie tight end Daniel Bellinger, which now means that two of quarterback Daniel Jones's 3 touchdown passes have gone to tight ends. So while the Giants came away with a win, there's still a lot of work to be done. Jones was hit 9 times and sacked 3, and he was seemingly under duress for most of the game. Overall, though, it was a big sigh of relief for a Giants team that will take the wins any way they can get them. For more on the New York Giants, be sure to keep it here on the Locked On Giants podcast.
Coming up, the Rams avoid an 0-2 start to the season, and the Cards upset the Raiders. This is Locked On Game to Game NFL. Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by Turo, the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want wherever you want from a community of local hosts across the USA, Canada, and the UK. Ditch boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. Welcome back to Locked On Game to Game NFL. I'm Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. The Super Bowl champs looked a little bit more like themselves, at least on offense this week, but the defense still struggled against the Atlanta Falcons, who waged a big comeback in the fourth quarter. Locked On Falcons takes you through how Atlanta fell behind early and then how they came up just short.
A valiant comeback falls short for the Falcons in week 2. I'm Aaron Freeman, the host of Locked On Falcons. In week 2, the Falcons seemingly flipped the script from their week 1 loss to the New Orleans Saints, where they played well for 3 quarters before blowing a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter. Now, against the Rams on Sunday, the Falcons struggled for 3 quarters, falling into a 31-10 hole before making a valiant effort to cut the Rams' lead to a single score before ultimately falling short with a final score of 31-27. Marcus Mariota threw up a prayer to Bryan Edwards with a minute left that was picked off by Jalen Ramsey at the goal line to thwart the Falcons' comeback, which at one point was down 28-3 in the third quarter. After failing to finish in week 1, the Falcons did a little bit better finishing the game in week 2. Perhaps maybe in week 3, we'll see a complete game against the Seattle Seahawks. We'll see. And we'll have you covered all week long on Locked On Falcons, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Arizona Cardinals trailed just about all game to the Raiders after a terribly slow start for Kyler Murray and the offense. Murray and Arizona came to life in the second half. They forced overtime in the final seconds, and Locked On Cardinals takes it from there.
What the hell just happened? The Cardinals got a victory 29-23 in Vegas against the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm Alex Clancy with Locked On Cardinals in the most improbable fashion. Down 20-0 at halftime, looking listless, looking not to have any sort of resolve. The Arizona Cardinals make adjustments at halftime. Vance Joseph comes out, puts together a game plan that holds the Las Vegas Raiders to 3 points in the second half in overtime, which yielded Kyler Murray's ability to do what he does. Make the impossible look possible. A 20.8-second long play that resulted in a 2-point conversion, and then Kyler Murray scores a touchdown, finds A.J. Green in the back of the end zone, ties the game, and of course, as you expected, Isaiah Simmons punches the ball out in overtime, and Byron Murphy runs it back 60-plus yards for a touchdown for a walk-off win for the Arizona Cardinals. Moves them to a tie for first place in the NFC West. What is this team? What is their future? We have no idea. For all the Cardinals news you want, Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals, Monday through Friday, free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube.
That's a wrap for today on Locked On Game to Game NFL. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcast. Make sure also to check out your team's Locked On podcast as well. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.